Hi, I'm Mark, and today I need to talk about some new regulations that are needed in the UK because of Brexit. I mentioned them earlier, but I've got some more details now. The UK government, in collaboration with the Scottish and Welsh governments, has published its plan to strengthen their borders against biosecurity threats and illegal imports. The draft border target operating model sets out a plan to realize the ambition of the 2025 border strategy to create the most effective border in the world, as they say. The draft has been devised following extensive engagement with the border industry and businesses across the UK, according to the government. A 6-week engagement period will now take place with a final target operating model to be published later this year. The border transformation is backed by over £1 billion investment across the spending review period to improve how government systems and technology support the movement of goods and people across the border. The proposed new model will prevent delays at the border through a reduction in the need for physical checks for many types of goods, and by ensuring that checks take place away from ports where this is needed to allow traffic to flow freely. That's at least the plan of the government. The introduction of full customs checks for goods from the EU has already been postponed several times. Now the British government is presenting this new plan. The innovations are to be introduced in 3 stages. The first 2 stages concern animal products and plant products, so-called SPS goods. The third level concerns security logins. The implementation of the full customs regime for goods from the EU should be completed by the end of 2024. From this point on, there are no longer any differences between imports from the EU and other third countries. In addition, the draft for the border target operating model includes an outlook on further changes. For example, the responsible authorities have announced that they will expand the system for trusted traders and introduce a UK single trade window. It's currently only a draft, though. First, the UK authorities responsible are conducting a stakeholder consultation before publishing the final version. Publication is scheduled for later this year. Economic operators have 6 weeks to submit their feedback via an online form. Animal products and plant products are divided into 3 different risk classes. Based on this, the requirements for import differ. The timetable for imports from the EU is as follows. On October 31st in 23, there's the presentation of veterinary certificates and phytosanitary certificates, and that will become mandatory. However, this requirement only applies to animal products and plant products with a medium risk. And on January 31st and 24, the introduction of controls for animal and plant products with a medium risk at border control posts. The controls include physical controls and the examination of documents. At the same time, there is a new approach to those controls. For SPS goods with a low risk, neither advance notifications nor health certificates are required. This applies both to imports from the EU and to goods from other third countries. There are also changes to the health certificates themselves. There is a gradual conversion from paper to digital documents. And from October 31st and 24, it will be mandatory to submit a summary entry declaration with safety and security declarations for goods from the EU. So far, imports from the EU are exempt from this requirement. In addition, the data set is reduced from 37 to 24 mandatory details. At the same time, the British government plans to introduce a UK single trade window, as I said. It integrates existing IT applications or offers an interface with existing systems. These include, for example, IPA FFS, with which importers register for the import of food in advance, or SNSGB, through which safety declarations are processed. This should make double data entry superfluous. The UK single trade window will be rolled out in several phases. In the long term, the system will replace all other IT applications and can therefore be used for all import formalities. The goal is implementation by 2027. The British government plans to expand and improve the existing system for trusted traders, as I said, the trusted trader scheme. The import of SPS goods should also become easier for authorized importers under this regime. But the whole thing, the whole announcement, makes one thing once more clear. I mentioned even just a few days ago again. Even the Brexit with this TCA, with the cooperation agreement that is now, after a long time of negotiations, even that Brexit has not fully kicked in because the UK has postponed a lot of things they should be doing for their own sake for quite some time already. But they didn't. They weren't able to implement all those things the EU implemented at the moment the TCA became valid and the end of the transition period was there. That's why people are always complaining about the checks in the EU, because it's not working the other way around so far, because the British never fully implemented them. But it also means that we haven't seen the full impact of the Brexit we have, because it wasn't implemented. Once this will be implemented, then we will see the full force of Brexit and even what it means for imports from the EU to the UK and for the availability of goods in the UK from the EU that people like very much, and it's their closest distributors. But that will be an interesting thing. But I said this for years now. Even the Brexit we have has not been fully implemented. And this is the same with the services and a lot of banking stuff and so on. It has not fully kicked in. So we will know the full consequences of Brexit when all of this finally happened. And I'll see you in my next video. I'll be back.